Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Today, I talked to you about some things that I went over in the Steelers' big win over the Jets in the film room, specifically the All-22 and how play action was an even bigger factor for Russell Wilson than I thought it would be. We'll go over that and our Stars and Skulls grades here on the Locked On Steelers podcast on the Tuesday edition. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things in the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show in your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time. All right, Steelers fans, first of all, I want to apologize. We did not have Alan Saunders on today as we normally do. Alan's a little busy, so we had to do the show on our own. We'll try to get him on again very soon. But still have a lot to talk with you about. Film study that I'm working on that should be up in the Post-Gazette, I think sometime like tomorrow afternoon or today, this afternoon, this evening-ish. Hopefully, I also have to cover a Pitt basketball exhibition game at the Peterson Event Center. Let me know if you're going to that, by the way. I want to dig into play action because that's always supposed to have been a huge part of Arthur Smith's offense. And I really think Russell Wilson did some really good things to unlock a bigger potential from that play action. Doesn't mean it will always be unlocked. Doesn't mean that the Steelers have figured everything out, but it does mean that I saw really good signs of progress. And I think that might have been the big difference why when you look at his play versus Justin Fields' play, that you can see a difference and why Mike Tomlin made this move. So last week when we were breaking things down, we were going over film studies on things and how the Steelers were calling a ton of play action, but not reaping the benefits with Justin Fields. Now, to be clear, Justin Fields was efficient with play action as far as getting the ball out and being able to at least move the ball. But through 6 games, the Steelers had called the 5th most play action passes in the NFL, but Justin Fields had the 33rd best yards per attempt in the league with quarterbacks that had at least 10 dropbacks. His average depth of target was only 4.9 yards downfield, 32nd among QBs. He was averaging less than like 5 yards per attempt. That's not good. You know, you want play action to be a thing that can open up passes further downfield, give yourself some chunk play opportunities, and then by hitting on some of those, open up more parts of your run game to get things going. Now, again, it's important to note Justin Fields was connecting well. I mean, he had a pass rating of 100.4 on play action passes. The problem was it wasn't efficient enough to get the big chunk plays that the Steelers are really looking for with the efficiency that they're looking for out of play action. And that's where Russell Wilson was able to go. For example, through 6 games, despite calling the 5th most play action passes, the Steelers only had 233 passing yards in 6 games off of play action passes. That's not a great rate at all. But just on Sunday night, Russell Wilson had 13 play action plays. He got off 12 passes, completed 9 of them for 157 yards while none were TVs. That is a yards per attempt rate of 13.1. So in that time, Russell Wilson got more than half of the yards that Justin Fields had in play action passing yards in 6 games than he did in just 1 game. And that average of 13.1 yards per attempt, well, it's just a very small sample size and just 1 game. That is the highest rate of any quarterback in the NFL as far as yards per attempt on play action passes of anyone who's thrown it, who's been at least part of 10 play action plays this season. Now, that's not to say that Russell Wilson's going to hold that all season and he's going to be the best play action passer in the NFL. Hold our horses there. But that is to say that in this game, he was efficient with it. And if he can at least stay in the upper echelon of as far as executing play action in the NFL, that's going to make Russell Wilson very valuable. And again, I doubt that mark holds, to the top of the NFL, but if he can stay in the top 10 with play action passes, it's going to start to open more and more things up because that's the whole point of play action, is to open up other parts of the offense. Also, Russell Wilson's play action passes were doing a really good job freezing linebackers and giving chances for other players to break open over the middle part of the field and other parts of the field like Calvin Austin, Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth, Van Jefferson, guys who they were trying to scheme open while they were, working with Goerge Pickens, making big plays. So that's one way that the Steelers were getting easier targets. There was a pass where it was like a shallow cross by Freiermuth, and it went for 21 yards when Russell Wilson hit him, and he had a defender right in his face when he threw it. But the thing is that Pat Freiermuth was that free because those linebackers had to be held because it was a play action pass, and they were reading that. And I think that that's where you see the impact of play action getting guys naturally open, scheming them open rather than just saying, hey, go win your one-on-ones. Because I think that's what a lot of people look at when they see stats as far as separation and things. That's when it's purely man coverage and someone's trying to press you and how much separation do you get there. That's what that's about. But players can still be schemed open in today's NFL. In fact, they often do, and they often were in this game for the Steelers. And that's another kudos to Arthur Smith. And listen, this is also why I've been saying for a while, I'm not sure the Steelers are hard pressed to get a wide receiver 2 caliber player that everyone keeps saying. Well, I'm sure they'd love to have one, but they're running an offense that's going to be balanced because it's working through several different people and it's trying to scheme guys open. And it might not be about getting a super talented playmaker at that position as much as it's getting someone that can just fill that role and play to that. Now, of course, you'd want the super talented playmaker who can fill that role, but selling the farm to do that ain't the move. And I don't think that's why. I think that's why the Steelers have been staying put on all that. Also, if they got one of those other wide receivers, unfortunately, Brandon Ayuk has torn his ACL. That was pretty rough. And Devontae Adams hasn't exactly lit it up for either team that he's played for this year. So maybe the Steelers aren't necessarily missing out on a whole lot there with those two guys. Now, do they need receiver help? I think so. But again, back to the play action part of this, the scheming up of these guys, I think it's making things easier. And by the way, when they're hitting on those play action passes, that's when it's opening things up more and more for Najee Harris and this run game, specifically for the offensive line, because when you open up space for the offensive line, they open up space for Najee Harris. And it also allows the offensive line to run different concepts that they've been trying to execute more cleanly. And that's one thing that we're starting to see more and more with the Steelers. They love to use their outside zone runs. There's times where they're doing the tosses, they're doing the traps, they're pulling guards. But I liked a few things that Arthur Smith was layering in to how they were running the football. And again, basing it off the pass and allowing the pass to set up the run. But like there were times where, like, typically when you pull a guard or they trap someone in the middle part of the formation, or they pull, the linebackers are typically trained to read the guards, follow the guards, because most likely they're going to take you to the play. And there was a play where Mason McCormick pulled down the line to the left side of the formation, and the linebackers all went with him. And Najee Harris, I'm pretty sure this was the call, bounced it out wide to the right, and there was no one there except the cornerback, and he was able to beat him. I think he got like 18 yards on the play. It's those types of things that he was kind of toying with them with and trying to keep the Jets off balance. And again, more appreciation for what Arthur Smith is actually doing with the concepts in his offense. And I think that he deserves some credit there. But again, for all of that to happen, you need play action to back off defenses. Otherwise, they're going to crowd the line of scrimmage. They're going to make it even harder to pull out these concepts, because it takes practice, it takes timing, it takes work. And that's why this young offensive line that continues to face makeshift after makeshift, I think needs to be able to shore some of those things up. And it's why you need to, if you're calling play action, you're making it easier for them to shore those things up. So again, getting back to the balance of this offense, which to me has always been the story of what Arthur Smith wants to do, what Mike Tomlin wants him to do, and what these players, I think, embrace to do, is to have that balance on offense where you're able to rely on several different things to beat teams, not just speed, not just contested catchability, not just being physical. It's a blend of things that allow you and your team to fight through several different points of adversity and go get big wins. And so that's why I think that this was really good to see the play action success from Russell Wilson, because now a lot more things can start to feed off of it. And if you remember the clip we played of Najee Harris, he said, hey, that's what's going to make us dangerous, is when we can beat you by all these different ways. And I think the Steelers are really developing more and more of those ways. So all that to be said, I think that the Steelers play action pass is working. I think it's opening things up. Like I said, I'm working on a film room that I'm hoping to have up sometime in the afternoon, evening, at worst Wednesday morning, and then we go from there. But again, you achieve the balance that we're talking about here. Again, it all being based off of play action. You get that balanced offense. This could be a really dangerous team. And it's not gonna just be proven in one game. Again, I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is the play action god. I'm just saying, hey, he did well in this game, and there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be teams that try to counter what you do, and you're going to have to learn from it. But for a foundation, this is a pretty solid place for Russell Wilson to start from in his tenure with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So again, kudos to that. And we'll talk more about that play action stuff down the line to see if it continues, because to me, that's a huge part of what this offense has always needed is play action passing and a vertical threats. But we got to take a break. When we come back, it's Stars and Skulls time. We get our grades in here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Stick with us. We have a lot to discuss here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, I remind you, this show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. FanDuel Sportsbook, of course, has always brought you all the odds, ends, and lines you could ever want in all your sports. With the World Series right around the corner, you can be gambling on whoever you think is going to hit the first home run of the series. You can gamble on who's going to win the series. Or if you're a Steelers fan, you can get ready for the new lines. Now, there's been some movement on these betting lines, according to FanDuel. The Steelers opened the week at 4.5-point favorites. They're now 5.5-point favorites, and the money lines have moved to minus 295 for the Steelers, plus 240 for the Giants, with the over-under dropping from 37.5 points to 36.5 points. We'll keep you updated on how those lines move throughout the week here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, because FanDuel Sportsbook is the #1 sportsbook for a reason. There's so many ways to take advantage, and right now you can get started with $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet today on the FanDuel Sportsbook app or on FanDuel.com. So take advantage of $200 in free bets today to new customers when you bet just $5 only on FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. We're also brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire a professional like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses wear so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire, so post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We are back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our show here. Excuse me as I sip some coffee. There we go. All right. Let's talk about some grades here. We've been, because like I said, I gave you my initial reactions to the game, but as always, we do some all 22 work on Mondays, and then we start getting to our grades. So a reminder for those who are new to the show, this is our grading rubric. If you're watching on YouTube, there's stars and skulls. So 1 star means you had a good play with a good day. 2 stars, great play with a good day. 3 stars, an elite performance in the reverse. 1 skull means you had a bad play without redeeming yourself. 2 skulls, bad game as a whole. 3 skulls, all-time terrible. We kind of have an art to doing this, not necessarily a science as far as how these grades go. But as always, when we cover a Steelers win, we start with the lower grades and work our way up. But I have to admit, there aren't that many super low grades with this week. We can beat a team by 37-15. So being honest, I only had 2 players who got skulls in this game because I was looking at, there's certainly players that made mistakes, but most of the players that made the mistakes that cost the Steelers early, they rebounded in some way or another and at least earned either neutral grades or they earned, positive grades. But let's go over some of these the 2 people who did get skulls. And it's not death sentences for these guys. It's not a bad thing. It's just 2 single skull grades. No 2 skull grades this week. No 3 skull grades this week. Just 2 1 skull grades. 1 for Isaiah Loudermilk. 1 for Landon Roberts. Loudermilk only even played 4 snaps. It's just that there was a couple plays when he was in there. I was like, ooh, that's really bad. That I noticed on his part. And then Landon Roberts, the biggest mistake that he made was just that on one of the longer Breece Hall receptions, he tried to tackle him, missed, and he took out like 2 Steelers defenders in the process, and then that led to a long play after. And again, like, look, Landon Roberts is still a very good player. It wasn't like he played a terrible game. He just had 1 bad moment, and then he didn't have another tackle throughout the game. So, I think that he'll be rebound soon. Sure enough, Landon Roberts is a very good player, and he's a big part of what the defense wants to do. So that's it. But again, if these are your only 2 down marks in a game, you must have did something pretty good, and I think the Steelers did something pretty good in that realm there. But again, Landon Roberts missed those tackles. Other guys, they missed some tackles early, but they rebounded. And let's be real. I know there's some people out there saying, well, the defense gave up those points early. Well, guess what? The defense also shut them out in the second half again, and they continue to be a problem in the second half with the adjustments that they're doing. So I think that's I think that kind of makes the assessment fair here for Landon. He didn't have a bad game, just a bad moment, and didn't get a chance to really redeem himself. But that being said, let's get to the 1-star players. Let's get to some positives, because this was a very positive game and a lot of lights here. In fact, we go to the 1-star players, and we start with some of the players we were just talking about, Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson. They were certainly missing their tackles early in the game, but both, I thought, rebounded well. They defended the run well. They helped cover well. They were making things harder on opponents, and I think that they deserve credit for what they're doing there. Peyton was right up there, I think, with 9 tackles. Really good signs from him and Queen. I think that the Steelers are getting better and better at the inside linebacker position. Now, let's go to more players on this 1-star list. By the way, if you're not watching on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, I apologize as I'm walking you through all this, but hey, we're doing it for our audio audience as well. But I had to include most of the offensive line in this one: Broderick Jones, Ryan McCollum, and Dan Moore, because they were solid against the run. And I will say McCollum more solid as a balanced player than I thought that he would be. But Broderick Jones is still struggling against the pass. I thought he was better against the run, in the run, but I think that Broderick Jones still has to work on some fundamentals. Dan Moore Jr. also, got cooked a little bit. But I looking at those guys struggle, I think it's just part of, Broderick Jones being young and still being inconsistent with his hands. That's going to be part of what I think he needs to get better and he needs to continue to work on, especially as a pass protector. But in the run, I think he looks a lot more comfortable and ready to go there, which is why I gave him 1 star and not a neutral grade or a negative grade. Because if he didn't have some of those run blocks that he had, and the Steelers didn't run the ball as well, I think I wouldn't have given him that mark there, because I thought he if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have been better. But let's look at other 1-star guys here. I have Jaylen Warren listed. Wasn't spectacular in this game, but he was solid, and I think that he made one of the more important plays of this game on a 3rd down pass where Russell Wilson was under pressure. He flipped it to him, and he went and got the 1st down. Jaylen Warren's a valuable player on this offense, and I think that shouldn't be overlooked. Even though Najee Harris is playing very, very well right now, but Jaylen Warren gets a star. Dean Lowry gets a star for blocking that kick after the nonsense that reset the first one when they blocked the extra point. If I could give coaches stars and skulls, Danny Smith would be getting all the stars for this game. Coolest Waitman got a star for solid punting in this one. And I also had to add Van Jefferson, not just for his TD, but because he also was a positive contributor on multiple big runs for Najee Harris, because he was cracking down, getting to the inside cornerbacks, and getting a chance for Najee Harris to match up with with smaller DBs out in space and being able to kind of just outmaneuver them. I think that's where Van Jefferson really stuck his nose in and got a lot done in this game on top of the touchdown that he had. And if he does that and he gets some results, more power to him. I think that shows that he can kind of get there. But also had to throw in on the 1-star grades here, TJ Watt made the list here. Now, the thing is, TJ Watt did not wreck this game. He was a problem. He was something they had to consider, but he wasn't the game wrecker that he had been, and that's fine. Not everyone's going to be a game wrecker all the time, but he was still a positive contributor, and I would be remiss if I did not add him in the process there. But we got to take a break. When we come back, it's going to be more stars time because we got 2-star grades and we got 3-star grades. There's a lot of that going around right now as far as how well the Steelers are playing. I want to specify who I thought played the best and why I think it's a really good sign for this team right now that they're getting this much kind of these many types of performances. So without further ado, let's head to the break. We'll be right back. But first, remind you, this show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the app you need to download today right to your phone or go to their website, gametime.co. They'll make it easy for you to find plenty of things to do in Pittsburgh or anywhere, wherever you're listening to this from, because there's no better place to find tickets for your favorite events than Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even faster. Game Time picks and filters out the fluff so that you can see incredible deals on great seats and you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Right now you can get all sorts of tickets for whatever you want to go see, a concert, a game, games across different sports. The Steelers game on Monday night. Let me know if you're going to the game. Shout out Patrick Witt, one of our moderators in the Locked On Steelers Facebook group, because he was at the game. Sorry I didn't get to meet up with you, Patrick, but I appreciate you and everything you do for the Locked On Steelers Facebook group, as well as all of our moderators there. Shout out to them, y'all. We see y'all doing hard work. But Game Time is the place where you can get tickets to also go see the Steelers this upcoming Monday night. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NFL to get $20 off your first purchase, or go to their website, gametime.co. Terms and conditions apply. Create an account and redeem code Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our show here with our Stars and Skulls grades, and it's time to go to the 2-star grades because there were quite a few. This was definitely the most 2-star grades I've given this year, maybe ever, because I've been doing this Stars and Skulls thing on this show since 2021, and I don't remember too many 37-15 beatdowns. So we had a lot of props to hand out in this one. Let's get to them here. 2-star grades, lots of guys on the defensive front here. Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, all were present in this game, essential to stopping the run. Benton batted down a 4th down pass. I think he might have had another pressure in the game. Ogunjobi had a sack early in the game, setting a tone for the Steelers defense. Cam Hayward was Cam Hayward. And Alex Highsmith reminded everybody why he was important in this game. He was getting pressure on the quarterback. He was stuffing the run. He was scraping down the line. That guy is an athlete, and the Steelers missed him badly, and it was very evident. And if Nick Herbig can get back and healthy, and Watt can stay healthy, ooh boy, watch out for this tandem as the year goes on, because I think that they can be really special as a trio when they're all active, and that can give the starters more of a breather at time that they can rely on those guys. But also in the trenches, the 2-star grades, got to acknowledge the guards. Isaac Seumalo and Mason McCormick both had really good days, in my opinion. I thought Seumalo finally got back on track. I thought Mason McCormick, because he struggled. He's been struggling since he came back from injury. But I thought Mason McCormick looked really good. Like he looks, he's getting more and more comfortable, a lot quicker. Again, he's an older offensive lineman, but Mason McCormick was moving guys. He also is not credited or charged with giving up a single pressure throughout the game. So good on Mason McCormick and how he's growing for the Steelers. I think that they're getting more and more comfortable, and that's a really good sign, so that they can be more and more aggressive with their blocking and getting things done. The Steelers needed somebody like that who could be aggressive, who could be physical, and I think Mason McCormick could be that dude if he keeps working out. But moving right along to other 2-star grades here, Deshaun Elliott, Joey Porter Jr., both of them deserve a chance here. Deshaun Elliott always moving around this year. Minkah Fitzpatrick, I gave a neutral grade because I don't think he really had to do too much in this game. But Deshaun Elliott's doing a lot of that. He's flying around. He's making the smart decisions. playing fast. But Joey Porter Jr. deserves credit for being like the quiet eraser because teams aren't going his way. I mean, you look at what Aaron Rodgers did. He was rarely going his way, and I think that that's very much intentional. And Joey Porter Jr. is taking away guys. I think that that's I think that there's something to be said there about Joey Porter Jr.'s coverage and how he's been playing so far. When you look at how he's taken on top receivers, how he's been preparing. So good on him. For doing that. Joey Porter Jr. certainly playing well. Chris Boswell also gets 2 stars because of his kicking and he just does Chris Boswell things. But also had to show him throwing the tight ends here, not just because they both caught multiple passes and made some big plays, but also because they were willing blockers in the run game. Just like I talked about Van Jefferson, these guys there were several times. I think Pat Freiermuth had the key block at the hole that kind of held open the gap just long enough for Najee Harris to squeeze in. So really good stuff there from the Steelers tight ends. I think they're kind of showing why they're being given this chance. But yeah, moving right along. I liked how both tight ends were using the pass game. And I think that'll start to increase more and more. But also I think that there is we talked about the offensive line. We talked about the tight ends, getting the ball to the tight ends. We got to talk about the guy who gets the ball to the tight ends, and that's Russell Wilson. He also gets a 2-star grade. Now, I can't give Russell Wilson a 3-star grade because of the slow start, had some mistakes there definitely early on. But if he has started that start maybe a few drives ago before, definitely a 3-star grade, and everyone's going to be, hooting and hollering over Russell Wilson's grade in a situation. But again, 2-star grade, very solid. We'll see if he builds up, for more against the Giants. But all that being said, we went over all the names on this 2-star list. Now we need to go over who made the 3-star grades. Your 3-star grades for the Steelers' big win over the Jets include 3 people. I'm going to give you a chance to guess in your head who they might be. It's pretty obvious if you're paying attention who they are, who I've already said. And if you guessed for your 3 stars, Beanie Bishop, Goerge Pickens, and Najee Harris, you are correct because, man, these guys got it done. And there were some guys, I think if like Alex Highsmith had a sack or a forced fumble, or a recovery, I think if Alex Highsmith had like one more thing, he could have been in the 3-star grade here because he was playing that well. But we got to take a minute to talk about all these guys. First off, it's Beanie Bishop, 2 career interceptions. Both his first 2 career interceptions coming off Aaron Rodgers. That's some storybook stuff right there. Bishop has had some rough days with the Steelers in these opening weeks. He's been cooked a couple times. He's looked lost at times, but he did not look lost Sunday night, and he deserves. I think he deserves some props and some praise for what he was able to do. And now all of a sudden, there's a little bit of question there as far as how Beanie Bishop is going to be, because I think there are a lot of people assuming Cam Sutton, as soon as he gets back, Beanie Bishop's gone. But I don't know. When you make plays like that, it makes it a little bit harder. Maybe they keep Beanie Bishop around and make Cam kind of flex around the defensive backfield there. So all that to be said, going into our 3-star grades, Beanie Bishop absolutely deserves it when you get 2 interceptions, a tackle for loss, and flying where you need to be. Next up, though, as far as 3-star grades, is Goerge Pickens, because you can't not give it to him with the numbers that he was able to put up in this game and also how he put them up. Goerge Pickens targeted 9 times, caught 5 of those passes for 111 yards and his first touchdown of the season. I really think that there is I really think that when you look at Goerge Pickens and what he's able to do, if he locks in, he's unstoppable. Because his ability to go up and get the football, to adjust the football in midair and understand how to play off his opponent there, it's uncanny. And I think that there's always those the narratives that have been out there, because Goerge Pickens, I'm gonna be real with you. Goerge Pickens has said some not great things just as far as like handling how he's handled situations, how he handles criticism, and whereas he doesn't owe that to us as reporters, and I think that's where sometimes reporters get down to it. I think he does owe it to the team when he does that, and maybe he addresses the team, and maybe and that's his thing. But I think there's always been that concern about Goerge Pickens, and if he'll fly off the handle at some point. Well, right now he looks locked in, making plays. We'll see how that continues moving forward. But again, can't shake away a 3-star performance where he went off for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then I got to go with Najee Harris, because Najee played really well in this game. His second straight 100-plus rushing yard performance, also add a rushing touchdown. I also think that Najee Harris is helping cultivate some of the culture that they're trying to bring into or keep around, with what they want to be in the offense. But there's no doubting Najee Harris with his ability to run the ball hard in the situation that the Steelers have been in. And I also think it's kind of starting to show, hey, maybe all those years that people were saying he's a bust and he's this, that maybe it was about the situation right in front of him, like some people were saying. So all that to be said, Najee Harris, Goerge Pickens, Beanie Bishop, they're your 3 stars. There's a ton of 2-star grades in here, and I'm sure that there's people I missed that I'm going to go back and change and say, okay, this person deserved to be here, this person deserved to be there. But either way, this was such a good showing from the Steelers team. Their DBs were showing up. They're showing depth. Your tight ends are getting involved. The play action's working. We'll continue to evaluate things, especially after I talk to Mike Tomlin, or I get my questions in on Mike Tomlin's press conference Tuesday at the Steelers facility. We'll see you then here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, post-gazette.com. Find me here every Monday through Friday talking about your Pittsburgh Steelers right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.